Hey, good morning, 7th grade. This is Monday morning, March the 30th. This marks the second week of our cyber school. This is also the beginning of the last 6-week grading period of school. So 6 more weeks of this. I imagine that it will be all like this. I don't know that for sure, but I kind of imagine that it will be. But I don't, yeah. This is our language lesson. So today we will go over lesson 7 just a little bit and then talk about lesson 8. Lesson 8 is due tomorrow. So this is Monday, lesson 8 is due tomorrow, Tuesday. Don't forget about those schedules. I have everything that you need, what needs to be done, when it needs to be done on there. Also today I think lesson 13 in reading is supposed to be finished for today. So don't forget about reading. We don't talk about it much. You're kind of on your own there. The last 2 lessons we talked about compound sentences, 2 independent clauses connected by either a comma and a conjunction or a semicolon. We had the example of the cow jumped over the moon, comma, and the little dog laughed. Compound sentences, 2 independent clauses that are connected into one sentence, forming a compound sentence. Complex sentences are sentences that have added detail. You have an independent clause and then added detail as a dependent clause. The dependent clauses are always introduced by either your relative pronouns, if it's an adjective clause, and your subordinating conjunctions, if it's an adverb clause. Example, Mr. Lauren, who is our teacher, has an amazing little girl named Ellie. I had to comment about Ellie, it's been a while. So Mr. Lauren, the dependent clause, who is our teacher. Okay, the main idea is that Mr. Lauren has an amazing little girl named Ellie, right? That's the most important fact. And you're just adding that, who is our teacher, for interest's sake. And this guy happens to be our teacher too, all right? So you should be aware of those. Always be thinking about relative pronouns and subordinating conjunctions, the introduction to dependent clauses within the sentence. I have this diagram, number 11, up on the board for you. This is a complex sentence. Remember how they are diagrams. So I'll just step aside a little bit, let you get a good look at it, and then we'll go over it. Talking about Strauss, Levi Strauss, having to do with denim. Strauss dyed denim. Direct object, verb, subject, right? The adjective, denim. Subordinating conjunction. Remember the subordinating conjunctions when you have an adverb phrase, an adverb clause, the coordinating conjunction goes on the dotted line and it goes from conjunction. Okay, conjunction is your hint there. Conjunctions go with dotted lines. Goes from verb to verb, always from verb to verb. Died to would show. So somehow in there, your subordinating conjunction on there. And then you have your dependent clause. So that it would show stains and not easily being your adjectives. Okay, if you didn't do it right, check it out, make the corrections. I do not need to know this grade or the amount wrong or anything like that. This is just to show you. This is a complex sentence. Number 13 then is a compound sentence. 2 sentences diagrammed together. So you have the sentence, there was a volleyball game yesterday. Game was, that's your subject and verb. There and yesterday are both adverbs. If you were confused by the there and yesterday are under was. Adverbs, and a volleyball goes under, or adjectives under game. Then you have your dotted line down from your verb, dotted line, connecting to your next sentence with the conjunction but on that line. And then your second sentence that you diagram, I stayed home. I, subject, verb, stayed, And home is an adverb, where you stayed. All right? Let's look at lesson 8 a little bit. Lesson 8. So we've talked about compound sentences, two independent clauses connected by comma and conjunction or semicolon. All right? And then we have complex sentences, which is a simple sentence, usually complex sentence, but it's a sentence with an independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. Okay, dependent clauses, relative pronouns, subordinating conjunctions. For example, let's just look at number 2 on page 28. Lesson 8, number 2, page 28. Hilda Conkling was a girl who wrote 2 books of poems when she was not yet 10 years old. All right? This is a complex sentence. There is an independent clause, the main thought, and then there are 1, maybe 2 dependent clauses. So think about it. Hilda Conkling was a girl who wrote 2 books of poems when she was not yet 10 years old. Think about relative pronouns and think about subordinating conjunctions. Get your list out. These are on your reference sheets. Don't guess. Okay? Don't guess. These words are on your reference sheet. Relative pronouns, subordinating conjunctions. Look them up. You will notice that you have the word who, which is a relative pronoun. Hilda Conkling was a girl who wrote 2 books of poetry. So you underline Hilda Conkling was a girl. That's the at least part of, if not all of, the independent clause in brackets. Who wrote 2 books of poems? Sorry. And then what about when she was not yet 10 years old? What is when she was not yet 10 years old? That is another dependent clause. When being a subordinating conjunction. So you bracket that as well. So the main thought of the sentence, the main thought that could stand by itself is simply Hilda Conkling was a girl. All right? That's supposedly the main idea that's being brought out. And then you add interesting details about this girl. Hilda Conkling was a girl who wrote 2 books of poems, by the way. All right? When she was not yet 10 years old. So those are just interesting details that are added to the fact that Hilda Conkling was a girl. So I think that mostly you understand that, okay? I think that you've been doing well in picking out your dependent clauses. We are looking now, we're going to look now at, so we've been able to identify simple sentences, simply 1 independent clause, compound sentence, 1 or more independent clause connected with your conjunction or your semicolon, and then complex sentences where you have your independent clause, main idea, and then 1 or more dependent clauses, just like that one there. Hilda Conkling was a girl who wrote 2 books of poems when she was not yet 10 years old. All right? That's a complex sentence. Now we are looking at compound complex sentences. Okay? So you have the compound sentence, the cow jumped over the moon, comma, but the little dog laughed. All right? So that's a compound sentence. Now you could turn that into a compound complex sentence by saying the cow jumped over the moon, but the little dog, who had a really long tail, laughed. Okay? So there you have your dependent clause, who had a really long tail, just for interest's sake. All right? So that is a compound complex sentence. So 1 or more of your independent, 1 or both of your independent clauses on either side of the conjunction or semicolon has a dependent clause as well. Let's just look. Number 4. So check this out. These are compound complex sentences, okay? So you have a compound sentence. Here, look at the 2 different parts of the compound sentence. When he designed the grocery cart, Sylvan Goldman had to hire people to use them. Note the semicolon. Shoppers were suspicious of the new contraption. So you have your compound sentence. When he designed the grocery cart, Sylvan Goldman had to hire people to use them. That's your first part of the compound sentence. Then you have your semicolon. It says to circle the punctuation marks, the conjunctions that connect the independent clauses. So in this case, you would circle the semicolon. Number 4, page 28. Circle the semicolon. And then the second part of the compound sentence, shoppers were suspicious of the new contraption. Now what you're supposed to do is bracket the dependent clauses and underline the independent ones. So number 4, what is your dependent clause? Andre, what do you think? I got to do that so it makes the teaching flow better. All right, that's right, Andre. When he designed the grocery cart. When being a subordinating conjunction, put that in brackets. When he designed the grocery cart. Then you underline, Sylvan Goldman had to hire people to use them. Circle the semicolon. Shoppers were suspicious of the new contraption. Any dependent clauses in there? No. So you just underline that. Okay, so you see this compound sentence that also has a dependent clause in one or the other, or could be in both of the independent clauses. So it is called a compound complex sentence. Number 6, do the same thing. Find the punctuation that connects the two independent sentences or clauses. Charles Darrow convinced Parker Brothers to manufacture his new Monopoly game. Semicolon. There it is. Circle it. When Parker Brothers began production, they could not keep up with the demand of the game. So you have a compound sentence. Now where is the dependent clause? Well, you notice right after the semicolon, when Parker Brothers began production. So you put that in brackets, and everything else gets underlined. Charles Darrow convinced Parker Brothers to manufacture his new Monopoly game. Underlined. Circle, semicolon. Bracket, when Parker Brothers began production. And then underline, they could not keep up with the demand of the game. All right, in 7 through 11, you are to bracket any independent clauses, underline, bracket dependent clauses, underline independent clauses, and identify the sentences as simply compound, simply complex, or compound complex. All right, number 8. J. Halstash made the first wheelchair. It was for his crippled friend. So maybe first of all, figure out compound, complex, or compound complex. What do you think? Number 8, page 28. J. Halstash made the first wheelchair. Semicolon. It was for his crippled friend. So we know that it's what? It's at least a compound. Are there any dependent clauses in there? I don't see any relative pronouns or subordinating conjunctions. Again, don't guess. Okay, for is not one, was is not one, first is not one, no dependent clauses. That is simply a compound sentence. Look at number 10. The Leaning Tower of Pisa leans because of a mistake. Semicolon. The soft ground that it is built on caused its famous tilt. All right? Now I said semicolon, that's a hint. That tells you that it is compound. The Leaning Tower of Pisa leans because of a mistake. That's your first sentence. Semicolon connected to the second sentence. The soft ground that it is built on caused its famous tilt. So it is compound. Are there dependent clauses in there? Subordinating conjunction? Oh yeah, because. Bracket, because of a mistake. So you underline the Leaning Tower of Pisa leans. Underlined. Bracket, because of a mistake. The soft ground caused its famous tilt. Should be underlined, and you have a relative pronoun that it is built on should be bracketed. So there you have a compound complex sentence. Both parts of the compound sentences have dependent clauses in them. All right? that is how you do that. Make sure lesson 8 is finished for tomorrow, which is Tuesday the 31st, last day of March. All right, great day, 7th grade.